Hello, and welcome to the Seth Joyner podcast. Glad you guys are here with me tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for subscribing, and commenting, turning on those notifications. Got a special evening for you guys tonight. We're going to run through the first 30 minutes. We're going to kind of talk about what's going on with the Birds. And then the second 30 minutes, I got my man Shady McCoy just went into the Eagles Hall of Fame 2 days ago. Going to join me to talk about what it means for him to be an Eagles Hall of Famer, as well as the current state of the Birds. Man, there's just so much stuff to get into tonight, but let's get to it. The trade deadline came and went. The Eagles were not active whatsoever. Fangio said that he was happy with the players that he had, as well as I guess Howie was happy with the players that they had. The one area that I believe that they really needed some help was pass rush, and I know that they had that window of a game ago, where they had 12 sacks, I believe, in 2 games. But the pass rush has been inconsistent, all year. Last week they only had, 1 sack. I think it was split between 2 guys, a half a sack. I believe that in order for the Eagles to get to where they want to get to, that they probably needed a bona fide pass rusher. Now they got some guys that can get it done. They got some guys, that will have a good game here, a good game there, like Josh Sweat last week. Josh had 2 sacks in last week's game, I believe it was. And, while that's great, the fact of the matter is Josh only shows up, every once in a while. Yeah, he gets a lot of pressures, but, the sacks is really what you want to get that pass rush, where it really needs to be. And the problem is, when they had Hassan Reddick, you had a guy that teams had to fear. You had a guy who you knew was going to give you, double-digit sacks every single year. That makes life easier on everybody else across the board, as pass rushers, from the interior to the guys on the edge, even the linebackers when they're blitzing. But, they don't really have that guy right now, in my opinion. And all the teams that need to get better, especially the teams that we're going to have to contend with if we're going to try to take a run at the Super Bowl this year, they got better today. The Detroit Lions lost Aiden Hutchinson. They signed Zadarius Smith from the Browns in a trade today. The Washington Commanders, who we're going to face on Thursday night after the Cowboys coming up Sunday, they needed a corner. They got, I don't know why the kid's name eludes me at the moment, but he was been a really good corner for the New Orleans Saints for quite some time. And they made that trade and upgraded themselves in that area. But we sat pat, and we didn't do much of anything. Now I get it. Vic Fangio said, hey, I'm satisfied with the guys I got. What else are you going to say? You can't say that, we need this or we need that, because then that reflects back on the players and how the players feel about themselves and how they think about what's transpiring from the standpoint of how the coaches, the confidence that the coaches have in them. So I understand, Vic's position. But to be honest with you, they needed to get a pass rusher today. Now, everything has to go via the waiver wire, no more trades. And to me, there's just not, you're not going to find a guy, I should say it like this. If there was a guy out there worth his salt, he was traded today. If he winds up on the waiver wire, it's highly likely that he may give you some help, but he's not going to be that bona fide pass rusher, that guaranteed guy that I feel like we need. Again, a lot to talk about as far as, the win last week. The Eagles win 28-23. Should have been a lot easier than it was. My main gripe, I'm pretty sure for you guys who follow me on social media, my main gripe was Nick Sirianni being overly aggressive throughout the entire game. It seemed like to me it could have been a game where, you've got the game locked up by the third quarter. You sit Saquon, you rest him. You get some of your young guys in on defense. But again, they let this team hang around and they literally turned it into a game. And there was no reason for Nick to be as aggressive as he is. And I get it. It's his MO. But when you're going for two after you already have a field goal, an extra point made, what the hell is 1 point? What difference is that going to make? Even though you got the penalty and you're at the 1 yard line, and yeah, you've been extremely successful with your tush push. But what's the point? What's the difference between 17-0 and 18-0? It really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Also, going for it on 4th and 3. I know a lot of people will say, hey, if Jalen throws just a little bit better ball, they convert and potentially they go out and they score a touchdown. But when you're playing against a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, who only amassed 38 total points in the entire first half and 1 first down, okay, this is what their possessions look like. The Eagles punted after their first possession. The Jaguars muffed the punt. That led to the Eagles' first touchdown, okay? The next 3 series, they went punt, turnover on downs, punt, and then they threw an interception to end the half. So to me, being overly aggressive doesn't make any sense. And I hear a lot of people that are like, oh, well, that's his MO and that's how he should do. No, you should always take the temperature of the game to understand what's going on. I'm not opposed to coaches being aggressive at any time whatsoever, if it warrants it. If you're down in the game and you're trying to turn a 2-score game into a 1-score game or a 3-score game into a 2-score game, by all means, go for it because there's an inherent benefit. But just to go for it and be aggressive just to be doing it makes no sense to me. And I understand their numbers are off the charts as far as, their success rate. But if you take those 9 points and you apply it to what the Eagles put up, that gives you 37 total points on the day. That game is over by the third quarter. And people want to talk about the analytics and what the analytics says and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm of the belief that the great coaches make great decisions. Like, Andy Reid is only going to go for it if he's in a situation where he feels like he has a play that's 100% non-failable, okay? For one, he's only going to go for it if it warrants it at the time. He's only going to go for it when necessary. Mike Tomlin is only going to go for it when necessary. Their kickers are going to kick field goals every single time that they get down the field. And then there's the other psychological side of it that you guys have heard me talk about all the time. Your offense drives down the field, okay, 10-plus plays. They get in scoring position. And because Nick wants to go for everything every single time, then they turn around and they don't convert, and the offense walks off the field having accomplished anything. So you've put together this drive and you've moved down the field and you've got a lot done, but you walk away with nothing. How freaking demoralizing is that for your football team to realize that they managed a run, they got down the field on this possession, and for some reason or another, they couldn't convert on 4th down, but you got a makeable field goal. And instead of taking the makeable field goal, you go for it. And then you walk away with nothing. And they walk off the field with this sense of emptiness. That kind of stuff makes no sense to me whatsoever. Makes no sense to me whatsoever. And think about the position that Nick put this football team in by being so overly aggressive. I just told you guys in the first half, this Jaguar team only managed 38 total yards, okay? By Nick doing what he did, okay? Now you got yourself in a situation where at one point it's a 6-point game. And now the defense and Vic Fangio and the way he's actually calling defenses has to change dramatically because there's a sense of protection mode that he has to go into instead of just playing defense the way he's been playing and dominating all game long. You see, I don't think Nick thinks about those things. And then the worst part is in his press conferences, in his radio interviews, all of these things, he's doubling and tripling down. Like if I was in that situation all over again, he says, I would do it the same exact way because I want to express confidence in our guys. I feel like, we want to be an aggressive football team. Listen, like I said before, I'm all for aggression. What I'm not for is aggression to the point where things become stupid. And that was a great amount of stupidity that you left 9 points on the board and you only won this game by 5 points. If they dominate the way that they should, you can sit Saquon. It changes everything, but he just believes that you got to go for everything. And I have to wonder, does Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie endorse this? Are they okay with the way that game looked? Because once again, when the game was over, it didn't feel like a win because we left so many points on the board and it was so close. If Nakobe Dean doesn't intercept that ball in the end zone and that running back catches that ball in the end zone, you guys now realize that the Jacksonville Jaguars go up in that game for the first time in the game and they're up by 2 points. And we got a minute and 40 seconds to actually go down and get ourselves in field goal range. And how that plays in the psyche of Jake Elliott, who was passed over for 2 chip shot field goals, then trotted out for a 57-yard field goal that hit the upright and he missed. Now, if they go down and they score, now you got to trot him back out there with his psyche and his confidence just a little bit frayed. I mean, sometimes I don't think, and I know he's got a lot on his plate, but sometimes I don't think Nick Sirianni considers these kinds of things and the effects that it not only has on the offense, but the effects that it has on the special teams and the effect that it has on the defensive side of the ball in their psyche. They're thinking, we beat the crap out of this team for a full half, and then all of a sudden, we got a game. They score a touchdown. Yeah, the ref made a massive decision. That guy touched Saquon. Saquon was down, okay? But sometimes you have to fight the refs. You got to fight the opponent. You got to fight 2 teams. You got to fight the team with the opposite color, and you got to fight the team with the stripes on. You got to fight the zebra. Sometimes it's just that way. The best thing that you can do is take all the points that you can get so that you never put yourself in a situation where the referees become a part of the equation in whether you win or lose a football game. And it seems to me that Nick Sirianni is not going to change. I mean, we're all going to be pulling our hair out if they get an opportunity to go for it on 4th down again. And listen, if you got 4th and 1, I'm all for the tush push, okay? But when it doesn't work the first time, doesn't work the second time, just realize that you're having an off day. Don't double down. Don't triple down. You go for you go for a 2-point conversion that doesn't make any sense. You go for another 2-point conversion that you don't convert, and then you triple down again for another 2-point conversion that you miss. All of those points that you left on the board, a full field goal worth of points that you left on the board because you wanted to be over aggressive. And for what? For what? What are you trying to prove? You do that when the game hangs in the balance. Or if you're playing against a team that's scoring a lot of points and you realize that you got to go tit for tat, you got to keep up with them from a points perspective, then you be aggressive. But in areas where you don't have to be aggressive, it doesn't make sense to do so. I don't know, man. I just, listen, I give a lot of credit to Vic Fangio. He has turned this defense around. You guys heard me apologizing to Nakobe Dean last week after the game he had last week. He showed up again this week. Both of the linebackers had interceptions in this game. They are playing some solid football. They look like they know what they're doing, where they belong, what they're supposed to be doing. The young guys on the back end are playing their asses off on a consistent basis. And, that's not complimentary football when your offense puts your defense in those types of positions. And furthermore, It is the head coach's job to be a reason or part of the reason why your team is being successful and winning. Your players shouldn't have to win in spite of the boneheaded decisions that you as a head coach makes on the field. That makes no sense. And I agree with Lane wholeheartedly. You know, I had this conversation with somebody just the other day talking about Lane's comments after the game, and he was pretty frustrated, you know, with how things have gone. I applaud him for stepping up and taking the reins as a leader with Jason Kelsey gone, and with Fletcher Cox having, you know, retired. They need new leaders on this football team, and Lane Johnson is starting to insert his voice. Coming out of the bye, he talked to Nick about, hey, we need to run the football more, you know. He was frustrated a couple of weeks ago about them wasting so much time in the play clock and not getting up to the line of scrimmage and snapping the football. Heard he got frustrated in practice a couple of weeks back and tossed his helmet about the same exact thing. And now he comes out and he's like, you know, listen, it's frustrating because, you know, we should have put 40 points up on the board. Now, Lane's not going to talk bad about the coach. He's not going to stir up any dissension on the team. But when you've played before and you listen to what players say and you learn how to read between the lines, what Lane is basically saying, dude, we need to take points where we can get points. This is nonsensical to continue to go for it and go for it and go for it every single time when there's very little benefit to gain from it. It's basically what he's saying without him actually saying it, because he's a good teammate, a good player for the organization, so on and so forth. He's not going to stir the pot. But I can tell you exactly what he meant by what he said, because he's frustrated because this offense should be scoring 30 to 40 points every single game. Okay? Love the play calling by Kellen Moore. I think we're starting to see more and more of his offense. I've got one play that I want to show you guys on the whiteboard, you know, before we, you know, bring Shady on. I seen the Eagles run it one time against cover two. They saw a lot of cover two last week against the Jaguars, and the Jaguars did a great job of disguising it, but yet still getting back to it. But they ran this one play where they flooded the zone, and I thought it was a fantastic play. They never came back to it, you know. Never ran it again. They ran it one time and they never ran it again. And then there's something to be had on the backside before A.J. Brown got hurt, because if he's the X guy away from the trip side, away from the offset side of the running back, you got slant routes galore over there. You got deep comebacks galore over there, because he's basically in man-to-man coverage on the backside of, you know, cover two versus away from trips. Jalen Hurts continues to play phenomenal football. You know, what a turnaround. His numbers aren't eye-popping, but guess what? A 132 rating again. I think he's right around 119, 120 over the last 4 games at post-bye. He's making good decisions. The only thing I would like to see him improve upon is being able to throw the ball away sometime instead of taking some of these sacks that he's taking inside the pocket. And listen, for me, I think quarterbacks get hurt more when they're in the pocket than when they're outside the pocket, because you got these big guys coming at you and you're in the pocket and they're falling on you right and they're falling on you left. I just want him to be healthy and be conscious of his well-being. Some of those sacks you don't have to take. Get out the pocket, throw the ball away, live to fight another day. But beyond that, I think his decision-making, his accuracy, everything has been phenomenal. And last week was just another step. You guys remember me talking about baby steps for him. Baby steps for him. It's a tremendous opportunity for him to take a major step towards becoming a more prolific passer and raising his numbers as far as, you know, what he's doing in the passing game. Because the Eagles, let me tell you something. Last week, the Eagles ran the ball. 46 times for 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5.2 yard average, okay? Hurts was 18 of 24 for 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, okay? And 1 rushing touchdown. So the evidence of the improvement is right there in front of us. The last two guys on the offensive side of the ball I want to touch on is Saquon Barkley is an absolute monster, man. This might be the greatest free agent signing in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles. Everything he does, it just, makes this offense better in so many ways. He runs with authority. He's able to come out of the backfield and beat linebackers and safeties. That touchdown that he had, that over-the-shoulder catch on that wheel route, the first touchdown, was just phenomenal. Not very many running backs have those kind of skills to do it all. There was one blitz where they sugared on one side and he was offset to that side, and it looked like the guy was coming, and one guy dropped out and another guy came from the other side, and he came across the formation and picked him up, and Jalen got out and scrambled for a first down. Listen, there's not very many running backs that have that skill set. They are great runners. They can catch the ball out of the backfield, and they're very good in protection. That's what I call a generational running back, and there are very few of them, in the National Football League. And how we hit it out of the park by signing this kid to a 3-year deal. He is worth every single penny and some more, just through 8 games with over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns in 8 games so far. Devontae Smith, once A.J. Brown went down, he stepped up big time. A lot of big plays, a lot of big catches, none no bigger than the poetry in motion catch. The trust between him and Jalen Hurts on those explosive plays, that deep ball, 25-yard touchdown, one-hander, got both feet down. I think that play and the run by Saquon, where he made the two guys miss and kind of got turned around and hurdled the guy backwards, I think that those two plays will live in infamy in the lore of Philadelphia Eagles football for a very, very long time. It was awesome to watch, man. It was awesome to watch. The Eagles have got some talent. They got some really good players. They got a good offensive line, and they're missing pieces in the offensive line. Once they get healthy and they get all their guys back, geez, look out. But my major concern is not the players. My major concern is not Jalen Hurts or the guys on the defensive side of the ball. Right now, I just get the sense that, Nick Sirianni, I'm more worried about him and his ability to make the right calls, the right decisions at the right time, in the right manner. That he's just not capable of that. And he's got to fix that. He's got to fix that. And I know a lot of people say, oh, the numbers, but let me tell you something. No matter how good you are at something, no matter what the numbers tell you, at some point in time, you always come back, you always shift back and you come back to the mean. And in my opinion, even though the numbers don't reflect it, that they're better than 50%, I believe all analytics are 50-50. At some point in time, and oftentimes in the most critical and crucial times of a game, when you think that because of your past success, you think that ensures future and present success, that you continue to roll the dice and go after it. But at every point in time, I don't care what anybody says, this is an irrevocable fact, okay? At some point in time, the law of averages will always catch up with you, okay? So you can get greedy and keep going for it. And you know what? The universe will let you have some. But it's at some point in time, okay, you got to shift back to the mean. At some point in time, the law of averages is going to catch up with you. And I just fear, it's my greatest fear right now with Nick Sirianni, is that it's going to catch up with us at a most critical time. And lastly, I will say, after the Browns game, the story was Nick Sirianni. We didn't talk about the win. We talked about his interaction with the fans in the stands, okay? The entire week. I feel like that's another thing that he's done this week. It's about him and his decision-making, and not all the great things that Saquon Barkley did, and not the great plays and catches that Devontae Smith made, and not the great game that the offensive line played, and not the great game that Jalen Hurts put together. But here we are talking about the head coach, and it should never be about the head coach. It should always be about the players. All right, so I'm going to jump over on the whiteboard before we go to break, because I want to make sure when we get to 8 o'clock, if Shady's on time, I want to give him the full 30 minutes to chat with him. So let's jump over on the whiteboard right quick. I got, I got these coverage that I want to show you to begin with. If I can get my pen to work. Okay, give me a sec, guys. Is that you? That's you. Hang in there with me one sec. We'll get it together here. It was working before. It's probably something I did. What I want to show you guys is, you guys always hear about these coverages. People talk about these coverages. They say, oh, too high safety, cover two. And, for the most part, the average fan really doesn't know what that means. There we go. So what I like to do is I want to give you the formation, okay? I want to give you the formation that the Eagles lined up in. Then I'm going to give you the defense. I'm going to give you the defense to go along with it. So they took Saquon and they moved him over here, okay? They had a tight end detached, one guy here, one guy off the ball here, and this would be the X receiver, A.J. Brown, on the backside, okay? So in cover two, you got your slot corner. You got your corner out here, your linebacker. He's going to relate to number 3. You got a linebacker over here, and he should be relating. Normally, this guy is over here, and his relation is going to be 2-to-1 with the backside corner here. And you got a half safety here, a half safety here, and a half safety here. Okay. So when you get this overload like this, okay, he's going to jam, and he's responsible for the flat. Okay. He's 2-to-1 or 2. This is number 2. So he's 2-to-1 or 2-to-3, meaning that if the route looks like this guy crosses, okay, now he becomes the number 3. This linebacker is going to relate to him, okay? If he pushes and the running back goes over the top, now, okay, he's going to let that guy go to this backside linebacker, and then he's going to look over here for the new number 3, okay? Okay, all that being said, same situation over here on this side, okay? He's pretty much going to be locked up because he has no number 2 over here. The number 2 is over here on the trip side. So this is the route that the Eagles ran, okay? You had this guy that crossed. This guy pushed up and hooked up. He shook and went down the sideline, and you had Saquon on a swing route, okay? Now, this safety's got to get over top of that. First of all, he's got to make sure he's getting no verticals from either 3 or 2, and then because this corner is responsible for the flat, but because you have trips, he's going to jam with him, but he's going to sink too, because this little honey hole right here is what we call the little honey hole. That safety, a lot of times that safety can't get over the top over here to get in that hole. You'll see a lot of teams throw that little fade in this area right here. But so you got that. So once that corner starts to sink, Saquon's sitting out here all by himself because these guys are relating, okay? Here's the new 2. He's going to push him there, and he's just going to float because he can't run out of his zone and run over here on the new 3 to the side. So Jalen throws him the ball, and you got 5 or 6 yards every single time right here against cover 2. Because by the time this cornerback reacts and comes back, Saquon's already got 7, 8 yards. It's a wrap. It's done. And why they ran it one time and they never ran it again is just beyond me. And there's so many other things, so many other routes that they can run off of this, I'm just going to give you guys just a little taste of, what you could get. So let's take this guy across, okay? Let's run this guy on a corner, and this guy's going to release outside. You run him on a go, and now you run Saquon on an F under route right here, okay? If these two linebackers don't figure it out between them, that's a big hitter right there. Because if he chases for 1 second, Saquon is wide open and he's gone, because this safety's got to get over here on this half every single time. That's just a fact. He's got to get over top of anything deep there. His biggest concern is with anything vertical up the field. But once he sees that he's got these underneath inside routes, he's got to get over top of this go route, because this corner can only carry him so long before he has to sit down. And if he feels this corner route, then he's going to sit there, and Saquon's got that ball. It's magic. The other thing, okay, now that you've got everybody's attention over here on this side of the field, when you got a healthy A.J. Brown, one-on-one, slants all day long. All you want. I mean, Jalen's going to look this way, come back this way on the slant. You got slant and go all day long, and that safety's got to get over top of it. There's so much that they could do out of this one formation that you don't see them taking advantage of. Like I said, they ran that swing route one time the entire game, and they never came back to it again, and they saw so much cover 3 all game long that it absolutely blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. And at times, they had some struggles here and there. I mean, the overall day, I'm not trying to be critical of the performance, because, anytime that you could put together, 400 and I believe it's 440 something yards of total offense. Well, come on, it's a pretty damn good day offensively. But I'm just trying to give you guys a picture of, first of all, what cover 2 looks like, and a lot of times what the Eagles are seeing, and in my opinion, what's available to them if they would just take advantage of it. I like to see the Eagles get to a point where they run a play and they have success with it. Run it again. Make the opposition show you that they can defend it. Flip it over on the other side. Run the play again until they can prove to you. Now, I'm not saying they got to run it again and again and again, but if you have success with it, then you know that you can come back with it and run it again. Even if you don't run it to the same side, you just flip it over on the other side and run it on the other side. The principles are the same. The corner's going to be different, so the way that they react to it, and the safety's going to be different. The way that he reacts to it is going to be different. But at least you know that you have success with it to begin with. All right? Okay, so let's take a quick break. I can't see exactly how much time. How much time we got?
33 minutes right now.
Okay, we're at 33 minutes right now. Let's go to our break, and hopefully by the time we come back, LeSean will be up and ready to go. All right?
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them, sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the BetParx app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
At Pond Lee Hockey, we're neither a pond nor a hockey team. In fact, I don't even know how to skate.
Cut.
We're the injury law firm that you want fighting for you.
With our vast network of attorneys across the country, we know the playbook on injury law.
It's how Pond Lee Hockey recovered billions of dollars for more than 100,000 injured and disabled workers.
And we know we can do the same for you.
So give Pond Lee Hockey a call. No other law firm will fight harder for you.
And you'll never pay a dime until we win.
Let's go. I'm back in my bag. I'm wrecking the wins and it's making them.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family-owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come, join our team.
All right, guys, welcome back. We are, I'm kind of in waiting mode. You know, my boy Shady, he's got a handler. So, you know, when people kind of port you over to their handler, you got to wait till they're ready to go. I think what we'll do is we'll start taking some questions, man. I'm pretty sure you guys got a lot of questions and a lot of comments. If he doesn't show up, then we'll turn it into a talk to him the last 30 minutes, and we'll take it from there. All right. So, first question. Jan wants to know how long would it take for an edge rusher to get acclimated to Fangio's scheme? Edge is a complex position. Well, it depends on, you know, it really depends on how you're going to use them. See, I think what the Eagles have figured out is that Bryce Huff is a player that they probably can't play on a consistent basis. On first and second down. So they really turned him into a third down, you know, pass rush specialist. Now, depending on what you're asking him to do, if he's going to be, you know, the guy that's playing on the side that's the true defensive inside in the 30 front, then his responsibilities are pretty simple. You know, you're basically containing the ball, and pass rushing, you know, with a containment thought, unless you've got, you know, some kind of games that you're running. And the good thing about that is that, you know, you've got enough. You're not going to put him out there on the field with, you know, just young guys. You put him out there with somebody who he can look across to and get an answer on, you know, what to do. I think it's the one position, probably the easiest position to transition from one team to another during, you know, a trade situation. You know, you don't have to know everything that the linebackers need to know. The linebackers need to understand the run, and they need to understand, you know, how they are meshed in with the pass. The guys in the secondary and the safeties, you know, likewise, there's so much more that those guys need to know. But when you're playing up on the line, yeah, you know, you're keying the guy that you're across from for run or pass and where you fit. And you're also, whatever games and whatnot you're going on, you've got that communication with the guys that are on the field right there. So it's a lot easier for that transition than it would be for the back half of the defense. All right. Let's jump into another question. Timo Lean wants to know, how's Avonte Maddox still making it on the field? Has he made a positive play all season? The answer to that is not that I can remember. I don't know. I mean, you got a lot of young guys, and I think that, you know, at some point Vic has to get frustrated enough with the situation and the scenario of having Avonte on the field that he decides to give one of these young guys an opportunity to take that dime position. I don't know whether the way he plays has kind of got him, you know, bent out of shape, and he's trying to do too much and prove, you know, that he's worthy of playing time. But he looks like everything is sped up and he's too fast. And then when he's not sped up and everything's too fast in coverage, he looks like he's unsure of what it is that he really wants to do and how it is he's supposed to get it done. There's nothing worse than not having confidence. And when I look at him play, he doesn't look like a player that has a lot of confidence in what he's trying to do on the field right now. And unfortunately, it's hurting the Eagles, you know, especially when they're in their dime situation and they have to bring that extra, you know, defensive back on the field. It's somewhat problematic for them to have him on the field. But, you know, what are you going to do? Next question. I apologize. I'm trying to multitask here. All right, I'm done. It is what it is. We got a show to do. Sean wants to know, why don't teams run buddies 46 anymore, or do they? Well, really, the 46 is a defense that was really centered on stopping the run. It's truly an 8-man front when you line up in it. It has its pluses and minuses against the pass. The issue is you're forced to break out of the actual 46 formations, what we used to call, the old Jayhawk, when they go 3 wide receivers. And now your strong safety has to align outside on that 3rd wide receiver, and that's really not the matchup that you want unless you got a strong safety that can really cover. That assignment is usually reserved for, the slot corner. The slot corner is the new Will Backer, but you can't take him, because in the 46 you've got, on the inside, you've the Jack and the Charlie Backer, and one guy's on the inside shade of the tight end, one guy's on the outside shade of the tight end. Well, you can't take the slot corner and put him in that position. You can't even take the strong safety and put him in that position. So now you're at a deficit. So there are some things that you can do with it, but the 46 is really meant to stop the run, and it's a defense that works very well against teams that like to run 12 personnel. That's 2 tight ends and 1 back, because now I can leave my 2 corners man-to-man on the outside. I got my strong safety down on the weak side, and you can Jayhawk it weak and get the strong safety up on the tight end, move the Mike Backer over on the weak side, and take the Jack or the Charlie Backer and move him back where the middle linebacker used to be, and then you can still run it from there. But listen, I believe that in short yardage situations that it's a defense that you can certainly still use today. A lot of teams will go a fifth defensive lineman in the game. It's just a matter of how they cover them up and how they deploy them, because really you got the 3 interior offensive linemen that are covered. You got the defensive end on the weak side that's kicked out outside the defensive tackle on that side, and then you've got the Charlie is in the C gap or inside the tight end on the strong side, and the Jack is outside. I think it'd be a great short yardage defense. But I think, when teams started going more and more 3 wide receiver and 4 wide receiver sets, that kind of made it obsolete. Okay. We're not going to get shady tonight. His handler didn't send him the link. Go figure. Anyhow, we'll keep it rolling. You think Sidney Brown will get a chance at safety since CJ's coverage has been suspect throughout the season? Hey, listen, you know what? They're gonna have to find a way to get Sidney on the field. And I felt all along that if he came back and was close to what he was last year, that he was gonna cause some problems, as far as the safeties are concerned. Because listen, he caused a fumble on that muff punt. He had a pass breakup the game before, and he's just one of those players, man, that just, he plays with a level of aggression and surety that a lot of young players don't. I felt all along that he was going to put pressure on both CJ GJ and Reed Blankenship from the standpoint of, at some point in time, you're going to have to try to figure out how to get him on the field. A lot of people feel like he's a starter. And I'm not so sure that I disagree. I have been disappointed in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I was one of those guys that when they let him go the first time, I felt like it was a massive mistake. I felt like they should have re-signed him and either signed Slay or Bradbury back, and then went young at the cornerback, but not necessarily bring both of those guys back. But it didn't work out that way, and they brought him back. And to say that he's underperformed is an understatement. He's missed a lot of tackles, and he has not been sharp in pass coverage all season long. And the more and more tape that teams begin to get on him struggling in coverage, it's going to be harder and harder for Vic Fangio to leave him on the field if he can't cover. You're not going to put Reed Blankenship in that situation because we know that Reed, doesn't have the speed to cover unless you can match him up, on a tight end. But when teams go 4 wide receivers, you almost have to, bring Gardner Johnson over on that 4th wide receiver. And just by alignment, you can get your better player on him. Like you can take your number 1 and number 2 and put him in the slot and take, your number 4, your number 3 wide receiver and put him outside. And now that already facilitates him having to cover their best guy. But yeah, that's a problem. And at some point in time, Sidney Brown might become the answer. All right. How did you think Isaiah Rodgers' coverage was? It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I mean, he gave up a couple of catches. You would kind of expect that. As the game went on, I believe that Vic Fangio was more and more protective of where the game was and how he wanted to call his coverages in comparison to how they played in the first half. So he gave up a couple of catches. But I think overall, for a guy making his first start in almost a year and a half, it was pretty darn good. I'd like to see more because before he got suspended, he was turning into one of the top cornerbacks, in the league. All right, excuse me. Next question. Todd Green wants to know what's my thoughts on the Eagles' defensive improvement. Is the players getting better, or is Vic Fangio improving his adjustments? I think it's a combination of both. When you look at Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, I think that, they've put this whole defense on a completely different trajectory with how they're playing. And they're raising the level of everybody else in the secondary to a certain extent as well. One thing you don't want to have as a veteran is have a rookie or these young guys come in and they're playing better than you're playing. So in turn, what that does, and it's not a jealousy thing, it's not an envy thing, any of that. It's just an inner competitiveness, in my opinion, that I feel like it's important to the growth of your football team. I know that, on our team, heck, if Jerome had two sacks, Clyde or Reggie wanted 3. If Byron had 12 tackles, I wanted 15. And it wasn't that I was jealous of, my teammates when they outperformed me, but, you begin to set a standard for how you play in this inner competitiveness that I believe is good for your defense, for guys to want to one-up each other, just as long as it's not a situation where it becomes a jealousy or envy or a covetous type thing where they become jealous of your success, because they're not having it, But when you raise a unit the right way and they become like, N'Kobe Dean spoke of this week about how he and Zach Bond, it's almost like playing next to your brother. That's how I felt with Byron. You're playing for him, he's playing for you. You're rooting for him to have a hell of a day. He's rooting for you to have a hell of a day. And when you get that across the board with 11 guys, guess what? You're going to have a pretty damn good unit. All right? Bo Banks wants to know, do we have any room for Bradbury to come? There was conversation about him playing some safety this summer. I think you're certainly not bringing him back to play any cornerback, whether it's in the slot or outside. The only place where you might bring him back would be at the safety position. And, with the recovery and, return and resurgence of Sidney Brown, there's just not a spot for him on the roster. Now, if you get an injury to one of those 3 guys on the back end, I would suspect that at some point in time that they would activate him and bring him forward. Because from what I understood in the summertime, he was actually playing pretty good. Now, I don't know how much of that is truth and how much of it is just hogwash, because the Eagles have been saddled with this salary of his for the rest of this year. And sometimes what teams will do is they'll make it seem like a player is doing extremely well or better than he really is. Because I can't imagine what injury it was for a guy that's only getting spot duty at safety, that he got hurt in the summertime that required him to go on injury reserve for a minimum of 6 games. That sounded more like me, like we're just going to stash him away, see what these young guys do. If we need him, we can bring him back. If not, we'll just roll with the situation the way that it is. So it could happen. Like I said, I'd be flabbergasted if they put him at slot or put him outside at corner at this point in time. But I would assume that if they needed him at safety, that's a possibility. Okay. Johnny wants to know what's my thoughts on the linebacker play from Bond and Dean. And listen, you guys have heard me on here throughout the first 4 or 5 games, be very critical of Nakobe Dean. Quite frankly, he's playing his ass off right now. Second in tackles, the week before, led the team in tackles this week, had a fumble recovery last week, had an interception that sealed the game this week. I mean, I think his play kind of speaks for itself. And, maybe it was getting familiar with Vic Fangio's defense. Maybe it was, getting in the playbook and really getting to a place where he understands exactly what it is that he's doing so he can play off of anticipation and instincts instead of just thinking all the time. But I keep my fingers crossed all the time that these two guys stay healthy because they're playing at such a high level right now. The thing that would hurt this team, in my opinion, is for one of those guys to get hurt and, one of the backups to have to step in. Now, those guys should be preparing like they're going to start each and every week. But there's also, this catching up, this getting up to speed, this getting familiar with game speed and stuff like that. It's a lot different running down the field on special teams and actually lining up and trying to understand and decipher what's going on when the ball is snapped. You've got to be kind of anticipatory as a linebacker because if you got to wait to make sure that everything is what you're seeing, oftentimes you're too late to the play, you're too late to the ball, you're too late beating blocks. And that's kind of what Nakobe looked like early in the season. But, the last 3 or 4 weeks, he's been decisive in everything that he's doing. It just seems like, he's turned the curve. So we'll see. We'll see if both of them can maintain it. If they can, it'd be a great thing. Prediction for this week. What did I say? I take my TV show today, and it airs on Tuesdays and on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and I always have my predictions. My prediction is a 31-14 victory for the Birds. Listen, the Cowboys are in disarray, man. I mean, they're not only are they beat up, but Jerry Jones dropped the ball in multiple ways, hasn't really done enough to improve the football team. And that kind of thing happens, when you got a quarterback that's making $65 million and a wide receiver that's making $35 million. That's a substantial amount of the salary cap when you're talking about trying to make sure that you got 53 guys locked in. I don't make any excuse for him because it couldn't happen to a better team, a better organization. But the quarterback's beat up. He's going to be on IR for the next 4 weeks. The wide receiver one, CeeDee Lamb, he's got a shoulder issue. Even if he plays, he shouldn't be on the field long because we know it's the right shoulder, and we should be trying to put a helmet on it as soon as we possibly can. I know some of y'all like, man, I can't believe he said that. But that's my mindset. That's how we played. That's why a lot of teams are so hush about the injuries to different players and really what the heck is wrong with them because, the rule of thumb is, okay, if he's got something wrong with that right leg, let's test it and see how strong it actually is. So you don't want to give him, you don't want him out there limping around like, the gazelle on the prairie and the lion's looking at him like, hey, we don't need to chase nothing today. We just need to go get that, we need to go get that easy one right there, So that's kind of the mentality. That's what it's like. But they got issues all over the place. They can't run the football. They can't stop the run on defense. I think they're 31st against the run in the National Football League. The Eagles are number 2 in the National Football League, racking up 174 yards per game. So to me, the game plan is pretty simple. We want to run the ball early, get a lead. That lead in running the football will facilitate Jalen being able to pass the ball without having to endure any pressure. But they may get Micah Parsons back this week. I don't think DeMarcus Lawrence is back this week. That'll give the Eagles the opportunity to make sure that when Parsons lines up over on Fred Johnson, that we can get him help, whether that's line the tight end, an extra tight end up over there, or whether that's the back chipping on him, but we can get him under control. But if we can get out to a good start on the offensive side of the ball, get some points on the board early, don't necessarily be greedy because you got Cooper Rush coming in, who has been pretty darn good, over the years in a backup role, for the Dallas Cowboys. But they have no weapons. They have no weapons. No tight ends as weapons. They have one wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb. Everybody else is just, guys that you would feel like or think that, Rodgers, DeJean, and Mitchell can pretty much lock down, at will. So, I know it's a big number, but the Eagles have been trending up. 28 points against the Giants, 28 points, and the Jaguars win. And think about the points that they actually left out there. If Nick Sirianni gets out of the way, hopefully they can put a 30 spot up on them this week or more. All right. Scott wants to know, which edge rusher were you hoping the Eagles would trade for today? Well, listen, I think everybody wanted Myles Garrett. The price was probably going to be a bit too high. I'm not in favor of giving up first round draft picks unless you get to a point where you're Super Bowl ready, but you're one player away. And that one player could make the difference between you actually getting to the Super Bowl and winning it or not. I don't think that the Eagles are there. I think they can be competitive trying to get there, but, and anything's possible. Because in 17, who in their right mind thought the Eagles were going to the Super Bowl and would win it? In 22, who in their right mind thought that in Jalen Hurts' second year that he'd be able to lead that team to a Super Bowl and come up 3 points short in that? So what I'm saying is that anything is possible, but I feel like next year is the year where they'll be primed. They'll be able to go out and get some bona fide pass rushers. Because you can never have enough pass rushers, especially on the edges. I would prefer to have 2 bona fide great pass rushers on the outside at each spot. It'll be another year of growing and advancing for the young players that are on the team. But listen, like I said, anything's possible. I just feel like they're a year away. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but that's my opinion. All right. Is that right? Is that 58 minutes? Wow, it's going fast. 2 more questions. Are the Commanders more concerning? Are the Commanders more of a concern than the Cowboys? Oh, of course, man. You kidding me? When we roll into that Commanders game on Thursday night, that's going to be for the division lead. We're 1 game behind them just because, we had our bye already and they haven't had theirs. They're 7-2, we're 6-2. Whoever comes out on top of that game is going to have a 1-game lead, and potentially and probably no losses within the division. The division is what you want. They want to be able to win the division outright because that's going to give them the automatic bye into the playoffs. Well, not the bye, but the automatic bid. So, yeah, that Commanders game is going to be a big one. Both of them are going to be big ones because it really could come down to, which team takes the 2 games or the split between the 2 teams in their 2 head-to-head matchups for the division. So I'm not worried about the Cowboys. Like I said, the Cowboys are a hot mess. You know, they got so much internal stuff going on. The quarterback on the sideline in the middle of the game after he's hurt talking about we effing suck. You know, Michael Parsons wants to be, you know, a podcaster. You know, looks like more than he wants to play football right now. I could be wrong, but, you know, I can't imagine myself while I was playing finding the time, you know, to be doing a podcast like this on a weekly basis, because my focus was more locked in on playing football and preparing every single week. But these guys are just on a different level. It's a different time. So I'm not really worried about them. I'm worried about the Commanders, because, you know, that young quarterback is playing his behind off. You know, Terry McLaurin is just truly scary Terry again. You know, when Brian Johnson is healthy, you know, he's a headache running the football. They do a lot of things good. And, you know, a Dan Quinn team, they're going to be good defensively. You know, they're not great, but they're very solid right now. So by far, that's the game, you know, that I'm most concerned with, because in order for us to win the division this year, we're probably going to have to beat the Washington Commanders at least one game. You know, at least one game. We'll beat the Giants twice. We'll beat the Cowboys twice for the first time in a long time. It's going to come down to whether we can, you know, keep pace in the wins-loss column, and whether we can actually, you know, either win both of the games against the Commanders or split. All right? Last question before I ride up out of here, y'all. Ryan wants to know, why is Ringo not getting more reps than Avonte Maddox? Good question. You know, there's always reasons. You know, Ringo has played more on the outside than inside. He's a big corner. I had a chance to meet him last offseason, and I was just shocked at how big he was. Not only is he tall, but he's a thick, big corner. And in my opinion, long-legged corners don't do well in the slot, because they don't have the ability. Their turnover isn't instantaneous. You know, it takes time to get up to speed, and oftentimes, you know, you've got a twitchy guy in the slot, and he's running option routes and all these different things. It's hard to cover a guy like that. That's why for a lot of years, Maddox, you know, was so good before, in my opinion, he began to lose his confidence. But I don't know. I mean, when he's had opportunities to play, you know, he's made some nice plays on the outside, big hit. He's very physical because, like I said, he's a big guy. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of different factors that go into why one guy plays and another guy doesn't play. Maybe Maddox understands the defense and what he's supposed to be doing, and he doesn't make mistakes in practice. A lot of times, the defense coordinator's decisions are based upon how a guy's picking things up in practice, because it's highly likely if he's not getting it right in practice, he probably won't get it right in the game. And if you got a guy that's having mistake-free practices during the week, of course, as a defense coordinator, you're going to go with the guy that doesn't make the mistakes. That's just the fact and just what it is. All right. All right. Let me get up out of here. I'll make it up to you guys one way or another. I'll get Shady on here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll chop it up. I apologize, you know, for the problems. The last 2 weeks, that's 2 guests in a row. I had Jaws. He was in studio and ready to come on. We couldn't get his audio to work last week, and then this week, a little bit of confusion between Shady's handler and myself, trying to get him lined up and get him good to go. So I'll circle back with him and try to get him on for a future show. All right. It's Dallas week, baby. It's Dallas week. There's nothing I love more than kicking the asses of the Dallas Cowboys. All right? Go Birds. Let's get it. As usual, you guys be good to each other and take care of each other. I'll see you right back here next week. But most importantly, make sure you love each other. All right? Peace, Philadelphia.
Most people don't know how to get the care they need. The experts at Stay at Home Care can help. Before choosing a caregiver or family member for your care, you need to apply for the home care program. The application process can be complicated. Stay at Home Care can help you navigate through every step. Once approved, your caregiver or family member will receive guaranteed weekly pay, a variety of medical benefits options, paid holidays, paid vacation, and overtime pay. Call Stay at Home Care, here to help every step of the way.
This is Seth Joyner, top analyst for the Birds. I've also analyzed the best auto dealerships, and I drive a Davis Honda.
Get to Davis Honda now and fall into savings. Lease a new 2024 Prologue EV for just $299 per month. See why Davis Honda continues to win outstanding awards for sales and service, including the highest award from Honda, the President's Award, 2 years in a row. Fall into savings right now at Davis Honda. Feel the Davis difference at Davis Honda in Burlington.
I'm Seth Joyner, and I drive a Davis Honda.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
This is Parks.
This is how you roll. This is how it goes. This is how you pop. This is how you rock. Take a chance, do a dance, little romance. This is how you. This is how you win. This is how you excite. This is how you all night. 360 hit me. Now we're going all in. I can feel it calling. The crowd, the light, the night, the sights, the vibe is right. This is how you. This is
Parks, Pennsylvania's #1 casino experience. This is how you win.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.